Well, let's see. All right, everyone. I'm here with my longtime friend, compatriot, and co-moderator, James. We decided to make a little video for you guys because we've had a lot of posts lately saying, when do I send in my opt-out notice for STAAR? When do I tell the school I'm not going to take STAAR? And we're going to talk about a couple of different perspectives on that tonight. But the first thing that I want to sort of point out before we sort of get into answering that question is, if you are dealing right now with the question of opting out of HB 4545 instruction, focus on that and that alone until you get that resolved, because it doesn't make any sense from a strategic standpoint to conflate opting out of HB 4545 and opting out of STAAR. And there's a real simple reason for that. And that's that the TA agrees with us you can opt out of 4545 instruction, and they don't agree with us about STAAR. So if you start throwing the two of them together, the school's got to focus on the STAAR part, because the TA is telling them all the time, can't opt out, can't opt out. And that's going to get in the way of getting the relief you need on HB 4545. So if you're dealing with accelerated instruction under HB 4545 and need to get electives restored, or you need to get an opt-out there, just chill out on the STAAR opt-out and just leave that till you get the rest of it, resolved. It's going to make the HB 4545 part much simpler for you if you're not trying to do the two of them at the same time. So the question we're seeing though is, when do I give my opt-out notice on STAAR? And remembering that about HB 4545, the real answer is there aren't any rules. There's not a deadline in the statute. There's not a set time that you have to do it. It's really a matter of strategy. And there's three basic strategies that I think that people look at. One is whether or not you give the school early notice of this. The second would be holding off and giving late notice. And then the third would be not giving any notice at all. Now, James, I know you have been upfront with your school on your boys from the very beginning, and are pretty assertive about it throughout the year. Do you want to just talk a little bit about why you give early notice and what the advantages are and what you use that for?
Okay, yeah, my boys have been opting out since third grade. And we had a little bit of a trial and error then, because it was our first time. But once we got it down, the campus and the admin and any testing administrator started to just contact us first after they knew our stance on opting out. So when you make yourself known and you supply your opt-out letter before the STAAR period hits, our campus then wanted to make accommodations. They were going to put them in a certain room, and then that didn't really seem like a good idea to keep them there all day. So we just opted to just keep them home, but letting them know early, and that also gives them time to kind of get their ducks in a row and how they want to handle you. We didn't get much pushback because we came with that opt-out letter, and it kind of slapped them in the mouth, and they knew, okay, we're not dealing with just any parent here not complying with what they want. We've got some legal and TEA wording. So we kind of trained our campus to know and how to deal with us and how we wanted to deal with STAAR. So sure, the sooner the better, let them know, because you don't want to be up against STAAR testing dates and whatnot. It also allowed me to put in my arrangements to take a week off from school or from work for the kids. So you want to make sure you give yourself and your support network as much time as you can to, if you're going to keep them out all week, have a plan. to a couple of other parents who got on with the STAAR opt out. We traded days on where our kids were going to be. So I took kids for 2 days and they took my kids for 2 days, and we just kind of mixed it up that way. So if you can build a support network within your ISD or even your campus, the sooner you get that that plan, the better you'll be. And then when we went to middle school, the the campus administrators, they called us in plenty advance. Hey, we understand your opt out. Some were off the record saying, hey, we support you. So you'll be surprised how many are actually supportive of you and won't give you a hard time once you know what the hell you're talking about. So yeah, get in there early, make your plan. And then like now my boys are junior and sophomores. So we're waiting to see what this first schedule looks like. They're supposed to be handing it out the day of class, so we'll see if we have a conversation to be had. But that mentality follows you all the way up through the grades. So just be early and stand your ground.
And James, have you found that since you all sort of blazed the trail and trained your school, that other parents have been able to opt out with similar success on your campuses?
Absolutely. I've got probably about, I'd say close to 5 or 6 other parents that message me pretty regularly saying, yeah, they refer to you without saying your name, but they they know that you didn't play around with them and they're not playing with us. So, and just another message a couple days ago, a mom stated, she's like, yeah, they tried to slip some stuff in there and I let them know. She literally threw the law back at their face and they didn't mess with her. So again, just know what you're talking about, the preparedness, and do your homework. Get in these links, read through, and it'll just start making more sense to you when you know your rights. And then when they try to be shady, shut them down.
Yeah. There are a number of parents that take a later notice approach, usually letting the school know, a week or maybe 2 weeks before STAAR. And, what I find is that tends to be parents that are more concerned that they're going to get pushback, the school's going to use that time to plot on how to trick them.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm not saying there aren't campuses where that happens. There certainly are. I mean, we run. That's how I got into it, with some kid whose mom got tricked into sending him back on a makeup day, and the school lied to her.
Mm-hmm.
And this is this does go on. But I think that one of the points, James, that you make is, when you are telling the school early on, we're not taking STAAR, that's not just time for them to prepare. It's time for you to prepare. It's time for you to prepare your kids. It's time for you to prepare yourself, and just to have real honest conversations with the school about, look, we understand what the TA is telling you, but we all know you can't force us to do this. You can't compel assessment. So are we going to be adults and figure out a way to make this work? Or are we going to engage in games of trickery? And when you have those early conversations, you're going to have an idea of what the school's approach is going to be. And if they are going to be tricky, well, then you've got time to prepare for it. If you wait until the last 2 weeks to figure that out, you may not read accurately what their intentions are, and you certainly may not have the time to prepare your kids for that.
Right.
Do your kids refuse in person these days?
My kids are very vocal about refusing. I also send in the letter. Honestly, they don't want them on campus because they start speaking back to teachers who try the intimidation game. Right. And then my oldest he's like, you can't make me take it, and your parents need to read up, and if anybody wants to know more, I'll give you my dad's number. So they know, and then when they start throwing around dad, like they're like, okay, y'all just do what you want to do. But a lot of these teachers, honestly, I don't even think they know the law themselves. So
No, a lot of them don't, and
yeah.
and a lot of them certainly don't know some of the guidance that the TA is given about how schools are actually able to work with parents, and a lot of that takes some time to educate, which is another good reason to go with early notice. Remember, part of what we're doing here is we're educating schools, we're educating other parents, but we're also educating teachers and administrators. And these are things that take time. These are things that again, I think mitigate towards the case for early notice. If you know from your school's history that that it's a vicious fight and you want to do late notice, I'm not here to tell you that's wrong. I'm here to tell you, I get it and I understand why parents do that. But I hope everyone takes a real, careful thought about the benefits of early notice for yourself, for planning, and also for education purposes. The last thing I want to sort of talk about those is those that go with no notice. And there's two things I want to say about that. Number one, absolutely, you're right. You don't have to give anyone any notice if you don't want to. It's your kids. If you want them just to not show up and that's your decision, you just don't want to hassle with it at all, that's fine. Do that. You are going to have to deal on the back end with what we're dealing with now on the HB 45 and opt out there. So it's not like you can completely avoid discussions with the school about the decision. But the second thing about that is, when you go with no notice, you really are passing up the chance to make a statement, to put something in writing in the record about why you're doing what you're doing. You give up the right to later ask for a corrective statement on your child's school records. And you give up the right to claim that you are opting out under the statute. We know the TEA says you can't opt out, but any school lawyer is going to admit no court has ever said that interpretation is right or that interpretation is wrong. Just like no court's ever said that our interpretation is wrong. We believe that absolutely the law permits you to opt out of STAAR because it's an assessment, and when you opt out, you have certain rights to go along with it. But to opt out, you have to give a written notice and it has to follow a certain form. So when you go with no notice, you are essentially saying, I'm not exercising my legal right to opt out under the statute. I'm just exercising my parental right for my kid not to take the STAAR. And that's fine. You can do that. But you are passing up the statutory process for opt out at that parent time, and you're basically just engaging in parental refusal, which that's fine because we've always said, well, if we can't opt out, then we refuse, right? If some judge were to say there is no opt out on STAAR, then we'd say fine, we refuse. What are you going to do? So that's sort of my thoughts on the notice and I think, really for me, it comes down to this. As a parent who's going to have kids that are not participating in STAAR, whatever process you go by, when you give early notice, it gives you time to get an idea of how the school is going to react and what their position is going to be, and the best way to facilitate this thing peacefully and maturely like adults. You can't make the other side act like adults, but we can give them every chance to do the right thing. And that's sort of the way I always approach it is, to look at even the most strident administrator and say, look, I understand you have to say that, but you also understand that I don't have to participate. So how are we going to go from here? Are we going to be adults? Or are we going to, you got to stomp your feet and throw a fit? Or are we going to figure out how to work this out together? And that doesn't happen without time, and time means notice. James, you got any closing thoughts for everyone?
High schoolers, get in that What About High School link. Yes. Get familiar. It gets it's a different process. So you want to make sure you understand the sub-assessments and the PSAT, and just know your options. Mine's a junior and a sophomore right now, so we're kind of exacting our plan is going to really kick off this junior year for my son. And again, just be prepared, and don't feel like these administrators, they'll try to intimidate you.
Yeah.
You're the parent, that's your child.
You know, that is a great point on the high school. You know, particularly, you know, I would say make sure you know that stuff before you give your opt-out notice. Because what's the first thing the school's going to say in high school? Oh, can't do it. You got to take it to graduate. And if you look, if you don't know what to say to that, then you're on the defensive right away.
Right.
But if you've done the research, you can look and go, well, no, we'll be substituting this and this, and you know, and we'll get to the point of an IGC. But if not, then we'll just go CVEP and we're fine. And what's the school going to say? They're not even going to know what you mean when you say CVEP. So they're, you know, then they're on the backside. So
yes,
anyway.
I'm still waiting back for our campus testing administrator to get back to me from last year end of school when I sent him the TxEdRights.net page and some screenshots from the TEA, and he's like, "Yeah, let me dig in on this and get back to you." I'm still waiting.
Yeah, well, it's an educational process. Well,
yeah, indeed.
Anyway, well, I hope this has been helpful to everyone. James, I appreciate you jumping on and giving your personal experience, because you got kids still going through it, and you're going through it right now at the level where the schools like to go, oh, you can't do it.
Yeah, we've heard it all.
Yeah, and you know, you've been at it. You know, I still remember the day you called me when you were in the principal's office. So
yeah,
I mean, you know, anyone says you got to take STAAR, look at your kids. You know, they're doing great, and
yeah.
You know, third grade on, it's been, you know, no STAAR for us. So anyway, I hope everyone has a great night. Hope this video helps y'all, and we'll look forward to talking to you all some more. Thanks, James.
Bye.